Hey all, Alex here at your home of the Music Deep Dive, and today we'll be doing a review of the 1996 biography by Robert D. Richardson, Emerson, The Mind on Fire. The subject of this book, Ralph Waldo Emerson, born the 25th of May 1803 in Boston, died the 27th of April 1882 in Concord, Massachusetts. The son of a minister, Emerson was a student of religion during his younger years, becoming ordained in his mid-20s, but the death of his first wife and disagreements with the administration of church rites and rules and things like that led him away from the church just a few years later. The remainder of Emerson's life sees him pursuing knowledge from a naturalist framework, exploring the beauty of the natural world and how it manifests itself in the intellectual world. Emerson's skill with rhetoric gained him popularity as a lecturer, and his writings became widespread for their advocacy of American knowledge and academia as a separate beast from European knowledge. Additionally, Emerson also interacted with some radical social ideas of his day, none more so than the abolitionist movement. The man was in effect a polymath, one of the most well-read individuals of his age, and someone who brought disparate subjects together seemingly without effort, and as such, it's incredibly difficult to distill his influence into just a few sentences here. The man really did it all. This book was written by Robert Dale Richardson III, born the 14th of June 1934 in Milwaukee, died the 16th of June 2020 in Hyannis, Massachusetts. Earning his doctorate in English and American literature from Harvard, Richardson was an independent scholar who sort of bounced around several institutions during his time in academia. Richardson's first prominent work, a biography, was his 1986 biography of Henry David Thoreau, A Life of the Mind, which not only gained him significant acclaim, but also introduced him to his second wife, the perks of being a historian, etc., etc. In addition to this work on Emerson, Richardson also wrote about figures such as William James, Walter Jackson Bate, and Edward Fitzgerald, and his translation of Omar Khayyam's Rubaiyat. The biggest thing I can emphasize about Emerson as a public figure is that for as dense and difficult to pin down as he can be, the man is a biographer's dream in one huge way. Emerson's entire life is more or less documented in his personal diaries, which not only gives insight into what he did on any given day, but also what he read in any given year. This is imperative information if you want to understand Emerson as a thinker, and Richardson clearly has a strong way of just weaving together Emerson's evolution that is compelling and clear to follow. What I mentioned earlier in the video about the impossibility of distilling Emerson into just a 4 to 5 sentence description, Richardson feels like he barely manages the task in slightly over 550 pages, and yet I don't think he misses anything or obviously glosses over anything that would seem important. It's a sort of guided tour through Emerson's wildlife, a nature walk, if you will. And it doesn't let up for a moment, like it's constantly giving you information and experiences and things like that, but it never gets especially overwhelming. And don't think this is overly simplistic prose that we're working with either. Richardson is a genuinely fantastic and eloquent writer and incorporates kind of Emerson's natural turns of phrase that you see in his writing with illustrative ones of his own. This is easy to do considering how much Richardson is simply talking about literature. He can pull quotes from books that Emerson wrote or ones that he read, and he plays those quotes off of each other to drench this otherwise, again, very information-saturated book with lively imagery. Now, a fair question worth asking is how admiring Richardson's portrayal of Emerson really is. It certainly paints Emerson as a three-dimensional character with a lot of complexities, but I have seen people say that it glosses over his faults and only touches on his lack of interest in interacting with the women's rights movement. Despite being a strong abolitionist, it doesn't really explore that whole area as well as it could. The criticism is fair. This is maybe the only area where I could point to as a solid constructive critique, and a more contemporary modern biography of Emerson may very well give him less grace for that aspect of his activism, which would be a very interesting perspective for sure, something I would certainly welcome hearing. But for the most part, Emerson does come off very well here, and I would say deservedly so. He occupies a singular position in American intellectualism and philosophy, and in many ways his ideas are startlingly progressive, especially coming from someone with his upbringing. Having next to no knowledge of the man or his works before this, I find myself more compelled to read his writings than I am most other authors that I've read biographies of thus far. And that's not a small statement either. Richardson's biography is a strong one, certainly one of the better literature bios I've encountered thus far, and at least for now, I do struggle to picture a better introduction to Emerson and his reputation than this book right here. Give it a read and find out for yourself. And that's it. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. As always, more reviews are to come. Tell a friend as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time, right here at your home of the Music Deep Dive.